It's the Andy Thompson Show on ESPN 97.7.
Oh, wow.
Not so fast, midget.
You are looking live at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California.
Tailgate Tour with Mr. Poppi on the Andy Thompson Show.
Hey, buddy. Welcome back. Thanks for being with us. One of our favorite segments every week, Tailgate Tour with Mr. Poppi. And we're lucky enough to have him in studio today. This segment brought to you by our good friends at Buck's Ace Hardware. And Poppi, it's great to have you.
Yeah, what a privilege it is to be sitting here in studio. I feel like one of the comedians that gets invited to come and sit by Johnny Carson on the couch. I mean, it's amazing to be here with you in big game.
Well, maybe this interview will catapult you on to hopefully ESPN Game Day in the near future. How many stadiums are we at? We remind the folks.
Yeah, I think this is 128 of the FBS. There's over 150 total, but we're down to about the last dozen.
And a pretty busy fall for you so far, right?
Yeah, well, we've got 4 or 5 done this year, and we don't have anything else planned. We've been doing a lot of things in St. George, so I don't know how many my wife is going to let me do the rest of this year with, visits and Thanksgiving, but I'm going to try to work a couple more in.
Now, I know, I don't know how you want to start, Poppi, but I know you've been in SEC territory.
Yeah.
I know you most recently were at Georgia.
Yeah.
And then we'll the main category is the other team you went to. But do you want to start talking about Georgia?
Well, yeah, Georgia was disappointing, and I'm going to have more on that later. Okay. I'm going to have a category of the most disappointing places, and but we'll get into that later. I all it does going to Georgia after Mississippi is reinforce how good Mississippi was, because my category is the top 5 things that make Ole Miss the best college football experience of the 128 that I've been to. Now, there could still be something really good in Louisiana Monroe or James Madison. I don't know. But right up to now, Ole Miss has got my vote.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Top 5 reasons why Ole Miss is the greatest place to watch a game in the entire country. Let's start with number 5.
Number 5.
Okay. It was a noon game. The weather was great. So we lucked out on that. But I'm going to start with the tailgate. Every place has a tailgate. And usually they're out in the parking lot, and there's these guys with their trucks, or the big timers at Georgia have these big RVs. And,
yes.
And big boosters have all these spaces. They don't do that at Ole Miss. They have these little canopies on the campus itself, on the grass, killing the grass. And you go in, the students go in there mixed in with the boosters. And there's just everybody's fighting for these spaces every week. And they're in there covering the whole grove. And they go in the night before. I've just never seen a tailgate like that where you've got the rich people and the students all mixed together. It's a wonderful thing to see.
Fantastic. All right, let's go number 4.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the stadium itself.
Wait, before we go to number 4, were you with the rich people or with the poor people?
Yeah,
I guess they're all intermixed.
They're all intermixed, and we couldn't distinguish, could we, baby? They all had all their TVs and stuff. The students were just kind of drinking and partying, so it was just fun.
Fantastic. All right, sorry, number 4.
Number 4.
Okay, the stadium. This is one of those that was built in 1915, so over 100 years old, and it's been remodeled a little bit, but it is still quaint. They set a record like the week before we got there at 67,000 people. And, of course, they broke the record when we were there at 600 against
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Thank you for that. So it's a great setting. It still has all the old traditional stuff. The national anthem is sung by a a cappella chorus that comes out there. The girls, the students, and all of the adults, most of the women are in dresses. They're in these sundresses with cowboy boots. Women of all ages. It's just an amazing thing. And it just demonstrates that they love college football. They love the experience. And I always wear my Utah gear. And many times these guys would be yelling at me, "Go Utes," and putting up the Utah symbol. And I just thought how great it is that they recognize me and Utah, and they know what the Utah Ute is.
Yeah, and exactly. That's flattering. All right, let's go number 3.
Number 3.
Okay, there are schools that get excited because they win all the time. Alabama is all excited because they win, and Ohio State, they're all excited. Mississippi hasn't won anything since 1963. They last won the SEC 60 years ago. And yet they show up, they fill the place up, they're positive, they love their Rebels. They have all these moments that they put on the big screen of great moments and great plays in the history. They celebrate their traditions. And then we were just in the night before, we weren't even at the stadium. We were walking around at the hotel, and this guy saw my Ute thing, and he said, well, hey, who did the Utes have this week? Yeah. And I spaced out. I couldn't even remember who the Utes have. And I just kind of smiled at him and said, but you know who the Rebels have tomorrow, don't you? And he smiled and just kind of looked like a wolf who was about ready to have a chicken dinner. He just kind of smiled and said, yeah, we got Kentucky. So he wasn't going to be going to the game. He was just a local guy in Oxford, Mississippi, and it was just delightful.
That's great. All right, we on number 2?
Number 2.
Okay, number 2, the game itself. So they're going well. They're 4-0 and ranked in the top 10, I think. We were excited to watch Ole Miss because of their quarterback, this kid from Roy, Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
And both teams are pretty good. People are enjoying the game, and of course, that Ole Miss was ahead for most of the time, but the fans weren't grumpy. Maybe they got excited about a couple of calls the referee made, but they weren't the kind of fans that you go with and they're always complaining about every single play. They're enjoying the atmosphere. They're enjoying each other. They're talking to us, even though there's a lot of pressure on the game. It was just a very pleasant experience with people who still love their football, but don't go crazy.
They're not entitled fans like I'm sure Georgia was.
Like Georgia and other places have been.
Love it. All right, let's go number 1.
And at number 1.
Okay, number 1 is the ending. Okay, they are ahead. They take the lead late in the game, and then Kentucky makes a long 4th down. When it looks like Ole Miss is going to stop them, they're like 4th and 8 and trying to keep their drive alive, and they make it, and they go on down and take the lead, and then Ole Miss gets the ball back with a minute left and drives down within field goal range and pooches a field goal. So it's a devastating loss for the Mississippi fans.
And remind me, did Kiffin go into the fetal position in field goal territory, or did he? Was it a legitimate field goal that they just had to take?
No, they didn't really try for the touchdown. Once they got in field goal position, 2nd, 3rd down, they just kind of ran very conservative plays because they felt like we can tie this. It wasn't to win it. It was just to send it into overtime.
Okay.
So, a little bit of that for Kiffin. But what I noticed was there was, after the kick went wide, the fans were obviously deflated. But they were not negative and grumpy and whining and bad sports. And it was just one of those things where I guess they're used to having disappointment. They've taught themselves that, hey, we can't get too down here. We're always going to be down. So it was just a delightful experience from the beginning of even the day before until even at the end when the game didn't end in the way we would have liked it to end.
Yeah.
The fans were still very pleasant, very positive with us. And I heard on the sport holes we were driving here, you're talking about Friday is for high school football.
Yes, yeah.
So I agree with that. And Saturday is for college football.
Yeah.
And Sunday is for church. I have no desire to watch the NFL. There's nothing attractive to me in the NFL. And so get all your football done on Friday and Saturday, and then go to church and be grateful that you have college football to watch on Saturday.
Amen. Couldn't agree more with that. Like the NFL, I think had a Friday game early on this season. Big game. Didn't they have a Friday game in the NFL?
I think it was week 1.
Yeah, it's sickening.
Packers-Eagles. That was in Brazil.
Oh, it was the Brazil game.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. So I agree with that. So of all the stadia, close to 130 visited, Mr. Poppi right here on our local airwaves is announcing Ole Miss, the greatest fan experience of anywhere in the country.
That's right. And I appreciate your use of the plural for stadium.
Yeah.
You're using stadia, which is how, it should be. So thank you.
Mr. Poppi, everybody, great job. And he's only got a few left. Oh, tell us about the guy you met.
Let's see which
the guy you met at whatever podunk school you were at, who had the shirt on that said, "Oh, I'm trying to get them all too," right?
Yes. I mean,
what were the odds of that?
Yeah, it was at Kennesaw State on Friday night before he went to Georgia. Just 2 rows in front of us was this guy who had this shirt that says, "So many stadiums." Unfortunately, he used the plural wrong. And he listed every college FBS stadium in the country. He had a little box by it where you could check off if you'd been there.
Yeah.
And he checked off a bunch of them. So I worked my way down there and I said, "Hey," and I introduced myself, and he was happy to see me, and we shared experiences about how many we'd been to. And he was going to Georgia the next day too. And so he's got a website, and he puts pictures and all this detail. He does it right. Now, I have to say, he's only got 115 stadia that he's visited. So he was looking up to me like I was something special. But it was good to see another guy on the same tour that I'm on.
Yeah, that was great. I'd be curious to see his review of Ole Miss and where he has them rated on his thing. But he'd be the JV guy on this show, that's for sure. Yeah. All right. Mr. Poppi, we'll have him back on next Thursday right here on the program. Quick break. Back right after this.